In the pre-dawn darkness of October 7, 2023, as Hamas militants breached the Gaza border fence, Israeli defense systems faced their most catastrophic intelligence failure in decades. But within hours of that devastating surprise attack, a revolutionary piece of technology would emerge from the chaos, fundamentally altering the landscape of modern warfare and surveillance forever. The ShadowSphere drone, a classified Israeli innovation that had been secretly developed for nearly a decade, was about to make its combat debut in the most unforgiving theater of operations imaginable. If you're fascinated by cutting-edge military technology and want to understand how modern conflicts are reshaping global security, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more in-depth analyses of the technologies changing our world. The morning of October 7th found the Israeli Defense Forces unprepared for the scale and coordination of the Hamas assault. As rockets rained down on Israeli cities and militants poured across the border, traditional surveillance systems proved inadequate for the rapidly evolving battlefield. The Iron Dome intercepted thousands of projectiles, but the sheer volume of simultaneous attacks overwhelmed conventional reconnaissance capabilities. In those critical first hours, Israeli commanders faced a terrifying reality. They were fighting blind against an enemy that had achieved complete tactical surprise. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Every minute of delayed response meant more civilian casualties, more territory lost, and a potential collapse of Israel's deterrent capability that had kept the region stable for years. This wasn't just another border skirmish, it was an existential threat that demanded an unprecedented response. At the center of this crisis stood Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, a former MIT robotics engineer who had joined the Israeli Defense Forces Elite Technology Unit 5 years earlier. Chen had been the lead architect of the ShadowSphere project, a revolutionary drone system that combined artificial intelligence, quantum sensors, and adaptive camouflage technology in ways that had never been attempted before. Alongside her worked Dr. Amit Goldstein, a quantum physicist whose breakthrough in miniaturized sensor arrays had made the ShadowSphere's capabilities possible. Their adversary wasn't just Hamas, but the fundamental limitations of conventional warfare itself. Traditional drones were vulnerable to electronic warfare, limited by line-of-sight communications, and easily detected by modern air defense systems. The ShadowSphere represented a quantum leap beyond these constraints, but it had never been tested in actual combat conditions. As emergency sirens wailed across southern Israel, Chen received the authorization she had hoped never to hear. Deploy ShadowSphere, all restrictions lifted. The first unit launched from a concealed facility near Ashkelon at 8:47 hours, its spherical form barely the size of a basketball, but packed with technology that represented 15 years of classified research. Unlike conventional drones, with their distinctive aircraft silhouettes, the ShadowSphere's perfectly round design eliminated radar cross-sections, while its adaptive surface could mimic the optical properties of its surroundings in real time. As it rose silently into the smoke-filled sky, quantum sensors began mapping electromagnetic signatures across a 50-kilometer radius, identifying friend from foe through biometric analysis and behavioral pattern recognition. The drone's AI system, trained on millions of hours of combat footage, could distinguish between civilians fleeing and militants advancing with 97% accuracy. Within minutes, it had catalogued every moving target in its operational zone, creating a three-dimensional battlefield map of unprecedented detail and accuracy. Inside the Israeli Defense Forces Underground Command Center, technicians watched in amazement as data streams from the ShadowSphere painted a picture of the battlefield that no human observer could have compiled. The drone had identified 17 Hamas command posts, mapped tunnel entrances that satellite imagery had missed, and was tracking the movement of hostages in real time through thermal signature analysis and gate recognition software. But perhaps most remarkably, it was doing all of this while remaining completely invisible to Hamas's electronic warfare systems. The militants' signal jammers, which had successfully disrupted conventional Israeli drones, had no effect on the ShadowSphere's quantum-encrypted communications. Their surface-to-air missiles, guided by radar systems designed to track traditional aircraft, couldn't lock onto the sphere's adaptive camouflage. For the first time since the attack began, Israeli forces had regained the information advantage that modern warfare demanded. The breakthrough moment came when Chen realized that the ShadowSphere's capabilities extended far beyond reconnaissance. The drone's quantum sensors could detect the unique electromagnetic signatures of electronic devices, allowing it to map Hamas's entire communications network in real time. More crucially, it could identify the specific frequencies used by the militants' command structure and selectively jam only those signals while leaving civilian communications intact. This surgical approach to electronic warfare had never been possible before, but the ShadowSphere's AI could process thousands of signal sources simultaneously and make targeting decisions in microseconds. Chen authorized the deployment of the drone's most classified capability, quantum interference protocols, that could disable electronic devices at the molecular level without causing permanent damage to surrounding infrastructure. The decisive moment arrived at 13:47 hours when Hamas commanders, realizing their communications were being systematically disrupted, attempted to coordinate a final push toward Israeli population centers using backup radio frequencies. The ShadowSphere detected the frequency change within seconds and identified the location of the primary Hamas command bunker through triangulation of the new signals. But instead of simply relaying coordinates for an airstrike, the drone executed a maneuver that would redefine the rules of engagement forever. Using its quantum interference system, it selectively disabled every electronic device within the bunker, while simultaneously broadcasting surrender instructions in Arabic through the militants' own communication equipment. The immediate transformation of the battlefield was unprecedented in modern warfare. Hamas units that had been advancing in coordinated formations suddenly found themselves isolated and confused as their communication networks collapsed around them. Israeli forces, guided by real-time intelligence from the ShadowSphere, could respond to threats with surgical precision while avoiding civilian casualties. The drone's ability to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants allowed for targeted interventions that would have been impossible with conventional weapon systems. Within hours, what had begun as Israel's worst intelligence failure in decades had been transformed into a demonstration of technological superiority that sent shockwaves through military establishments worldwide. The global implications of the ShadowSphere's combat debut extended far beyond the immediate conflict in Gaza. Within days of the operation, defense contractors from the United States, China, and Russia were reportedly offering unprecedented sums for access to the technology. The drone had demonstrated capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about air defense, electronic warfare, and battlefield surveillance. Its quantum sensors could theoretically detect stealth aircraft that were invisible to conventional radar, while its adaptive camouflage made it nearly impossible to target with existing missile systems. Perhaps most significantly, its AI-driven decision-making processes had proven capable of making life-and-death determinations with a level of precision and speed that human operators simply couldn't match. The ShadowSphere hadn't just changed the tactical situation in Gaza, it had potentially obsoleted entire categories of military hardware that nations had spent trillions of dollars developing. The technology's influence spread rapidly through civilian applications as well. The same quantum sensors that could identify militants in urban environments proved invaluable for search and rescue operations, capable of detecting human life signs through collapsed buildings or dense forest canopies. The adaptive camouflage technology found applications in everything from architectural design to wildlife conservation, allowing structures to blend seamlessly with their environments or enabling researchers to observe animals without disturbance. The AI systems developed for battlefield analysis were adapted for medical diagnostics, financial modeling, and climate research, creating ripple effects across multiple industries. But perhaps most importantly, the ShadowSphere had demonstrated that the future of conflict would be determined not by the size of armies or the destructive power of weapons, but by the sophistication of information systems and the speed of automated decision-making. As we reflect on the emergence of the ShadowSphere drone and its profound impact on global security, we're witnessing more than just another advancement in military technology. We're seeing the birth of a new era where the boundaries between physical and digital warfare have become irreversibly blurred, where artificial intelligence makes split-second decisions that determine the fate of nations, and where the very nature of human conflict is being redefined by technologies that most of us can barely comprehend. The ShadowSphere represents both humanity's greatest achievement in protective technology and perhaps its most dangerous step toward a future where wars are fought by machines that think faster and see farther than any human ever could. The question that remains is not whether this technology will spread to other nations and applications, but whether humanity is prepared for a world where such power exists in the shadows above us, watching, analyzing, and deciding our fate in ways we may never fully understand. What do you think the future holds when the line between protection and surveillance becomes impossible to distinguish? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the technologies reshaping our world.